and welcome to Spangler Sports World Network on Zingo TV, channel 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the App Store of iOS or Android. When you download, make sure to rate, leave a comment. Both apps are free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. This, as always, is Tales from the Film Set. Thank you for tuning in. We are now across 4 different continents, 35 different platforms, which is pretty cool. Alongside me, as always, is my fabulous hostess, Jasmine Bloch-Krempels. How are you, young Ms.?
I'm doing well. You know, I'd prefer to be called an actor, so I will also take host over hostess.
You know,
hostess sounds like I'm in a seat you at a restaurant, which I feel like isn't really this gig. So
either that or basically a chocolate cake.
Right. Yeah. Right. Or a small wrapped pastry. So I'll take host. I like host.
Such as they are.
Yeah.
And alongside us, guest host today, or special guest in this particular case, Mr. Vincent Veloso. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty well, Scott. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Rocking the cat behind us, staring us down, looking like he's going to attack us, which is awesome.
Yeah, he makes the Zoom calls a lot more fun. And my sister actually has a bunch of cats, and she's like, "Why aren't you putting my cats on the thing?" I'm like, I just forgot to do it. So this is some random cat that I found, and brightens up the day.
Well, I found out basically the Zingo TV aspect of it, which is streaming this literally right now, has broken well over 10,000 views over the past month.
Awesome.
So there's probably a couple of thousand people, bare minimum, that are looking at your cat and may have a comment or two on it. So we'll find out about that one in due time when the comments come in. But thank you, man, for coming in. I appreciate that. I want to talk to you a little bit about the career that you've got. You just came off a movie with Sean Patrick Flannery, Michael J. White, Abigail Hawke from Blue Bloods as well. You've also done work with the TV show Elementary, Person of Interest. You've got a pretty solid career here outside of the music aspect, which is also very, very impressive in its own right. So outside of that, tell us about yourself, how you got started. Tell us everything, man.
Sure. Well, thanks to you guys for inviting me on here. It's an honor to be here. I actually started as a professional saxophone player. I went to school for music, and
nice.
When I graduated, I was doing a lot of world tours down in South America with a band called King Chango from Venezuela. And we'd be playing like soccer stadiums. This is 1999-ish, 2000. And it was a very different Venezuela from what it is right now. But it was great. We were traveling all over the world, Australia, doing all kinds of stuff. And they were kind of like a U2-ish, like rock star band down there. So we were playing bullfighting rings, soccer stadiums, things for dignitaries. It was great. And so long story short, how I got into acting was I had a friend of mine who was a singer, and she has a great band as well. Her name is Martirosian. And she was trying out for this commercial. And she asked me if I could play bass on it. She asked me, "Hey, Ben, can you play bass?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I can play a little bass." And so long story short, we didn't get the gig, but she introduced me to her agent, and the agent had started sending it out for different stuff, and eventually got into the union, and then started producing my own stuff. And so now I'm doing acting. As you said, I finished filming on VA 33, which is coming out actually April 2nd in select theaters, and then it's going to be on demand in April 6th. And it's I can't really talk too much about what's in it because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but I actually did make the trailers, and you see a stunt that I do in it, which is cool. But Christopher Ray, the director, and all the other cast, Weston Cage Coppola, Michael J. White, Sean Patrick Flannery, Richard Gabai, Gerald Webb, Brittany Underwood. There's a whole bunch of really, really talented cast in this movie. Yeah, action cast. It was very cool seeing how people. Anytime you're on set, at least for myself, I love to see the dynamic between the directors and the actors, and how each individual actor kind of approaches what they do and how they interact on a set, and then the dynamics of the cast and crew. It's always you're always learning something, and I like to try to incorporate that whenever I do my own productions as well.
Nice. In this particular case, I mean, you work alongside Spawn, for starters, which growing up in my case, and Michael J. White was just unbridled awesome, So I'm geeking a little bit. I got to be real with you. I'm kind of geeking a little bit on this one, but take me through a little bit. I mean, with everything that you've been dealing with, everything, with the industry as a whole, has it been difficult at post shutdown to get back into things, or just trying to like roll right into it?
It's been hard for a lot of us. It's during last year in the early days, especially when everything had shut down. I actually had done a hard pivot in my career. I was doing a lot of phone high ticket item closings and via the phone or via DM. So that was kind of like a day job situation. But I was still doing remote auditions. So like my agent would send me out, well, they wouldn't send me out, but they'd send me links to, you know, to start doing stuff for remote tapings, which, you know, it's obviously it's a huge part of it in the industry now. Last year or prior to that, people would still be doing self tapes, and that was in, you know, as a casting director myself, I actually kind of prefer self tapes because you get to kind of just get things right away, and you don't have to book the time and all the rest of that. But as an actor, last year in particular, there were some pretty heavy auditions that were coming down the pipe for. I know a lot of my colleagues and friends had gotten booked on shows, like my friend Daniel Velasco, who was in my movie Suburban Sepulchre. He worked on SVU as this year, and a couple other people as well. So people have been still booking stuff in the later half of the year, but from when it started in March till about July or August, things were completely just dead.
Yeah,
but things are.
My cat concurs. He really wants to.
That's your cat.
That's your cat. I thought my cat was coming to life.
No,
there.
no, that's actually my cat. Oh, the background doesn't like my cat. Hold on.
That's okay.
Mr. Cat.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't mine because I know she'd be freaking out down here if she came down here.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, he liked it. He thought it was a good story anyway.
Well,
yeah, but it's good to see cats on Zoom calls.
Real
cat photo bomb.
Real cats, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, you mentioned the self-tape art. Personally, I much prefer doing self-tape. You know, I mean, for those of us all in Jersey, including yourself, going all the way to New York City, sometimes Brooklyn or even Queens, is difficult, and it's a very time-consuming thing. I'd rather just do this over here. And I'm finding, I don't know, I guess you are too, that they're even doing callbacks through Zoom now. You know,
yes,
I had a callback for Mrs. Meisel, and it was a Zoom call. So I'm trying to figure out and coordinate how to make this work in a Zoom call where I'm standing up to audition again. And it's kind of a cool aspect of doing it because it's probably a lot easier on them. You mentioned you prefer it that way also. And, you know, in this case, I would love to see it continue myself, but I don't know if they're going to once COVID starts to really go in the vacuum mirror.
Honestly, I think they will because it's so much cheaper. It's cheaper for everybody. You don't need a space. You don't need, like Vincent was saying, you don't need to do any sort of scheduling. I mean, if you want to do it live, that's fine. But you can crank out like so many more in a day. I feel like it's just more efficient. Unless there's a director that really feels like they need to be in a room with someone feeling like live energy, I think most of them are just going to be, you know, you're not going to have to fly back and forth between LA and New York anymore unless it's like a big, big deal.
Yeah, it might have something to do with it. The bigger the project is, the more they may require you to come in. But if it's a simple day player thing or like the one day thing that I would have had on Mrs. Meisel, they can probably handle that right here. You know,
I totally agree. It's self-tape is here to stay. I think there's no substitute for live interaction and actually seeing the people in the room, especially if you're trying to do like a chemistry thing or an ensemble read where you actually have the actors together and they're interacting, or a larger part, as Jasmine had said. But it's here to stay. It's the industry is changing. It's changed already, and we'll see. It's a bit of an exciting time here that we're in.
Nice, absolutely. So you and I remember, and I one of the big things about this show that we talk about is the odd experiences that we've had. You know, the things that we've seen firsthand, you know, from the actors that we've worked with, the names that we recognize. You directed Eric Roberts, you know, yes. And I remember that day. We were there that day, you know, alongside Catherine Curtin, who straight up knocked it out. 5 pages that woman had.
Yeah, knocked it out. You
know, I remember distinctly Eric Roberts, I don't know if you remember this, doing trumpet noises between takes. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, it was. He was a pleasure to work with, and
he was. No, he's actually really cool. He doesn't actually like the handshake. There was always a fist bump. I think he still did that even then too. But this is the kind of stuff that we a lot of times talk about on this show, where you just see oddities like the trumpet noises. I had somebody talk on the Facebook page earlier, and I'm probably going to bring him on in a couple of weeks, about how Jamie Foxx used to shadow box and also sing between takes for Spider-Man 2.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I might actually, I'm talking to him about maybe coming on too, to talk about that, because we've never discussed Jamie Foxx in this show, which I think is a high climb I need to fix. But in all the things that you've done over the many years you've done it, do you have any story that stands out of just something that was just really, really cool that you witnessed? You know, possibly something that was really a major screw up that somehow worked out okay, you know, or just some kind of a weird story that basically that the audience would be like, huh, I wish that was me.
Sure. I think Jamie Foxx is coming on the new, is it the Spider-Man movie coming out next?
He probably would be, because his character, I think, was unresolved more or less. Definitely, well, poor Giamatti's character.
It's that whole multiverse thing that they're going to pull into.
Yeah.
But coming back to stories, well, without naming names and stuff, obviously, I think actually you might have been.
If it's a good story about, you know, if it puts them in a good light, you can mention the name.
I say, if it's you don't want them to, we use names. Let's just put it that way. We use names when appropriate.
Sure.
We use names when basically it makes them look awesome, or it makes us look really stupid. So the bad experience that I had with Ava DuVernay, which embarrassed the heck out of me, she came off looking like a peach. I look like an idiot. We can mention her name for stories like that. So, like I said, but if it's something bad, something negative, no, typically we'll leave the name out of it. So.
Sure. Well, I know from the production side of it, I know a couple of stories. One was we were doing one of the episodes of Changelings, and we had all these fake teeth that had to be fitted into actors, and we were in a location that actually didn't have electricity, and the special effects person came up to me. He's like, "What are we going to do? We need to heat the water up and all the rest of the stuff, or get the paste right. And what are we going to do?" So I said to my first AD, I'm like, Tim Guccione, can you go down to the craft services table and just pick up all the gum you can get? He's like, "What do you need the gum?" It's like, this is a Lon Chaney, this is one of those I'd seen like a Lon Chaney documentary or something like that, where he would make teeth out of peanuts and chewing gum. And so long story short, that was something that was a screw up, but we kind of went with it, because sometimes you have to just keep going with it. I can talk about eccentric behaviors, like people eating food that really shouldn't be eating, that's been sitting out for like 10 hours when you're sitting
that works. Again, as long as no names are mentioned, but if it's something like that.
Yeah, it was another actor. We were doing a scene, and like, he just starts eating this stuff. I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, just go with it. Because I'm like, this stuff has been out there for like 6-7 hours, and you probably don't
want to prop food.
Yeah, it was prop food.
Okay.
Well, and then set dressing gets real angry that you're like eating they're like, we don't have any more. And I'm like, also, like you said, the day old lukewarm food is just not appetizing. Like, how hungry do you have to be to, like, that pancake that's been sitting here since 5 a.m. looks really awesome.
Looks really appealing.
Well, it's funny because a lot of times when you have like a lot of these upscale, you know, events, things like that. I remember the movie New Year's Eve 10 years ago. You know, they had people coming around with trays of food, and it was very classy. But what a lot of background don't realize is that, yes, while it technically looks appetizing, yes, not only has it been sitting out for God knows how long, you know, and completely unhealthy that way, but they also spray it down.
I was going to say, most of it's sprayed.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You won't realize till you put it in your mouth that it's been sprayed. So we just know don't eat anything. That's how you can tell the non-union people, because they're eating the prop food. They're like, well, it's real. I was like, it was real at some point. It's not really consumable. It's like the water that they say non-potable. Like, it comes out of the sink. You can wash your hands with it. Don't drink it. It's like that. And they're like, oh, and they're like trying not to spit it out.
It's like basically too little, too late at this point.
Right.
But yeah, because a lot of times you get these people that do that. You know, even honestly, you get these people who just go ahead and do it because they don't think about it. They don't realize it. You know, amazingly, they don't really get too sick, I don't think. But in theory,
I have a catering story, which is similarly terrible. So if there's a ton of background, you guys know, but for people who don't know, they'll give separate catering because they just can't serve 200 people at one time. So background will get their own catering area with their own chef and whatever. And on the intern, there were 85 background every day for 6 weeks.
Hmm.
So, all right, they gave us our own, where we ate was our own holding, whatever. But what people didn't really realize is that some of the food never got put away at the end of the night. For instance, the dairy-based salad dressings, your ranch, your blue cheese.
Blue cheese, maybe Caesar even.
Technically, does that stuff need to be refrigerated? I don't know. But like by the end of the first week, people were getting food poisoning from the salad dressing. And everyone's like, oh, it was the meat. I'm like, guys, you're eating stuff that's supposed, like, do you keep your salad dressing sitting out at your house? No, it's in your refrigerator. Look it over there. That stuff's been sitting there for a week. And then after that first week, just nobody ate. Like you could only have oil and vinegar because that doesn't go bad. But it took people like a week to realize that like just basic food storage was not being achieved. And it's like, no ranch. Don't eat the ranch. It was just like
ranch tastes good.
But girl, tastes good. Yeah, you didn't realize there was dairy in the ranch till it goes bad, and then you eat it, and an hour after lunch, everyone needs to go to the bathroom. That's a problem.
Right. Reminds me of that story of Lance Henriksen on the set of Aliens, where he has to, in one shot, he has to puke up all this milk, and like the first day he kind of just went through it but then he got sick. But he had kept going through it because he didn't want to ruin the takes and stuff. And then when they find out that he was getting sick, they finally made it fresh for him every day, every time that they were shooting that particular scene.
Was that for the end of the movie?
Yeah.
With the Queen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's always a challenge to anytime you have special effects or like allergies or anything like that, you gotta make sure.
He's got to basically do that over and over each take. It's like, all right, that was a good vomit. All right, one more for safety. One more for safety.
Yeah.
One more for safety. The magic phrase, which I heard way too much on a commercial the other day.
I feel like I haven't had any food eating scenes since everything reopened. Now that I'm thinking about it, we've been in restaurants, we've been at like high class dinners, but there's like no eating anywhere. Because it's very difficult to stage that in a realistic way if they want you to put the food in your mouth and it's been sitting out, like, so now there's just really not, people are holding drinks, but no one's drinking anything.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long that's going to last. I guess as long as all the CDC guidelines still stand. There's no eating right now on camera. Sure. Not a thing.
Not at the moment, no. But if you ever notice in TV shows, whenever a principal character, has to actually have any dialogue, the mask is either off entirely or down around the chin. But all background people in the scene always have the mask up.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever watch it going forward, you're always seeing this happen every time. I get it. They need to have the dialogue and conversations happening. But if it's BG, that mask never comes down.
I'm like past the point where like we're like, I guess, past COVID in anything I've been working on where there's no masks. And it's the most bizarre thing to be, a year out from not being with any people. And now, like, for the purposes of production, it's totally okay to be in a large room of people and like pretend like nothing's going on. And it's bizarre. I was doing something this week where it was the 90s. So no, there were no masks because we were very much pre-COVID. But people on the side of the road were like, New York City, no one really stops. They're over it by now. This was like bizarre because it looked like a bunch of people protesting wearing masks. We weren't. There was a ton of us. There were like 60 or 70 of us outside, and I'm surprised no one called the police because it was that bizarre to be around that many people. And this was one of the ones where it's like, oh, pictures up and then 15 minutes goes by, which I'm not entirely sure. Like, I get that, like, I get what pictures up means, but like, why do you say it if we're not moving forward?
Well, because they're probably trying to fix something and adjust something. I know the production.
I did 5 takes in 10.5 hours. So
I did
tell me how a picture was up.
And yet I did a commercial the other day. The crew had a 7 a.m. call time. They wrapped just before 4 o'clock with a half-hour lunch in there and probably did about 150 takes across everything they had to do. It was insane.
That's efficiency right there.
My God. And that was like that. That was the king. We've talked about it before in the show, the king of the one more, where it's like, all right, got it. And one more.
Oh, so you're saying
great.
you
Got
could
it.
have been,
Yeah, one more.
done at noon, is what you're saying.
Yeah, probably. But anyway, find us always on Twitter at Filmset Tales on Twitter. Thank you again to our daughter's wife for making this fantastic background here. Find us on Facebook at Tales from the Film Set. Alongside us today is Mr. Vincent Veloso. Appreciate you coming out. Actor, stunt person, autodidactic polymath, if you want to call him that too.
You're too kind. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And if you know what if you know what that means, you might know that he is one. So
I have a question for Vincent, if that's okay, before we go to our 5 questions. So, what Scott didn't tell you is that I was also a music major.
Oh, okay.
And while I was not a saxophone major, it was my minor. So I want to know what horn you play when you're playing tenor, and how much do you still play, if at all?
Well, this particular last year, not very much. The only thing I've been doing is kind of doing overdubs for another album that I play with a band called Malumbo on Rope-A-Dope Records, and we released a couple of albums that we had released, we had done prior to the whole pandemic, Celestial Mechanics and Fairy Tale Aliens. You can get them through Bandcamp, malumbo.bandcamp.com. And so when I'm playing, I studied mostly alto during college. So what do I have? Are you asking me for like the brand of the instrument?
It's very interesting to me what everybody likes to play, and it's never it's not like ever one thing. Everybody has such a preference to brand, model, and they won't touch anything else. So I'm just curious.
Sure. Well, I'm a summer guy myself. I have a balance action.
I am too.
From 47, from alto. For my tenor, I have an old H.E.R, which actually works really well. And soprano, I had a good Super Action 80, I think, but I sold that one. And then I actually have a Barry that I've used on sessions that actually. The story behind that was a friend of mine who was in college. He got into a motorcycle accident, unfortunately, and so his jaw had gotten all wired and stuff. He's like, Vin, do you want this? Do you want this Barry? I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, because I'd given this to a friend of mine, and he was in this rock ska thing, and he was really mistreating it. He bent the horn and everything. I'm like, he's like, I know that you'll take care of it. Will you ever, do you want it? I'm like, first, I'm honored. I'm like, this is always your horn. If you ever want to take it back, it's completely your horn. But I've used that horn for a good 20 years.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, it's. I think. Your sax players, like once you play one horn, they translate all above. And then I was a music teacher for many years, so I can teach basically all brass and all winds and stuff. So.
Yeah, I have like a 2002 American Selmer alto, which I don't love, but I don't play a ton of alto, so I'm like, all right, fine. I have a 54 Martin is my tenor, and I really I just like the older horns. They're heavy, like literally they are heavy metal. The original, term heavy metal applies to my horn, and I'm just getting back in, stuff starting to book up for the summer now outdoors. But I'll tell you what, I was surprised. I guess not surprised, but I was surprised that the film industry got back in before the music industry as far as work, because I didn't think they would have the money to do it, but it turns out there was plenty of money to do all the testing and everything that needed to be done, and it kind of just left all the musicians out to dry. And I really feel I have a lot of friends who play professionally, and they've actually just bailed out and gotten other careers at this point because they waited it out 6 months, 8 months. They couldn't wait any longer.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I have tons of musician friends and singers that, and especially on Broadway too, or off Broadway, that are really hurting right now. And I know for myself, like I still play in a corporate wedding band for Hank Lane. It's
such a slow year, huh?
Well, like, yeah, all of our, I played with the Kenny Ford band, and all of our things were wiped out last year. We may start up again in April, but depends on a lot of things. But I know some musicians are still doing the busking thing outdoors. My friend Kenny, he actually does stuff on Twitch, and he does live streams. So, and then I know for a lot of musicians, they're still teaching remotely. So at least they have that. But yeah,
that's me, because my school never opened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm literally teaching first year band from my house.
That's got to be really challenging, like a big Zoom with all the music, with all the kids, and
Well, and if people haven't figured it out by now, when you see those videos of people playing together in all their squares, then none of those people were ever playing together. That's all been pre-recorded and everyone plays alone with headphones, and some very good editing team makes it look like you were playing together. And so when I try to explain to the parents of my students who cannot even play with a click track, forget about they've never played with anyone. They've only played with themselves, and they've listened to me and they're muted and they're playing along, but I can't hear them at the same time. They're like, well, when are we making a concert video? It's like, well, to edit 50
Let's get those
kids
likes.
because you
into
got
those little
to
squares,
get all those little squares together, and
you're talking about. I mean, it's got to be 200 hours of audio editing. Well, and let's be honest, the first year player, you can't really use much of their audio. So, like, I would have to go and record all the tracks myself and have that kind of be the primary audio, which is fine. But it's like people legitimately think we all got on Zoom and pressed record. And that's how those videos are made. And really, I kind of discourage, I mean, they're fun to watch or whatever. But if you're talking about having a concert, that's not a concert. A concert's like real life in front of real people, and let's just call it what it is. There's no concerts right now.
that's the challenge of this whole pandemic, as you know, as well of us here are actors or musicians. It's really the social aspect of it. It's one thing to do your thing on your own and then kind of upload it or whatever, but our art, especially as music, we're recording all our parts separately and then mixing it together.
Right.
But as in the jazz band that I'm with, there's no substitute for vibing with somebody in the room. Like, you look at the drummer or the keys, and you're spontaneously creating together. Now you can do that. It is possible to do it remotely through whatever, but it's not the same as if you're in the same studio. So, like, I know recently people have started doing recording sessions, sort of isolated. So they're still doing it, but until that, I guess the concern kind of drops a little bit more. It's not going to be the same for that. And then obviously the theater situation too. I know, it's not the same for
no, and they're talking
that live aspect of it.
Well, maybe Broadway can open, but at 20% capacity. But you can't pay your it's like your actors are the staff, yes, but think about there's so much other staff. You got to pay your musicians, you got to pay your crew, you got to pay your front of the house. You can't run a business at 20%. I don't think most shows can operate at 60% and still make still afford to stay open. So unfortunately, I think Broadway is going to be like the last thing that opens. I know there's some national tours going on in other places of the country where they feel like it's less of a risk, or the population isn't so dense, so they feel like it's not as much of a liability. But like literally New York City is going to be maybe LA will be after New York, because it's kind of it's gotten better there, but it's not good in LA right now. But it's just sad because it was a very viable way to make a living. If you live in the New York City area and you're a good or you not even good, you're a great musician and you're a precision musician. The studios in Broadway were like the cake gigs, right? I
agree. It's going to be a challenge for all of us, whether you're an actor, musician, or in the industry where you have to be social. It's going to be a challenge. We will come back to some level of some kind of thing we can do, and the whole thing of that old Chinese symbol, that crisis and opportunity, the same thing. It's definitely that, and sometimes the limitations that are in the art actually help you create better art. So
I feel like in that way also, like, there will be better technology after. I think it'll be too late for when we need it, but there will be live, like, rehearsal and recording technology. It's just they couldn't get it together when we needed it, right? We needed to be developing it 5 years ago so that we had it during the pandemic, and they just they're figuring it out, but it's so slow that or it's so expensive that you make like one set of whatever you have and it's not widely available. But it will come.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
like I just even watching like The Mandalorian last year with the volume. It's like that's going to be one of the ways things are going to go forward. We have less crew and the sets are there. You just have to dress it up, but you can manipulate the environment in real time with less, and you can actually see what's going to happen as opposed to being in a green screen environment where you have to pretend and you don't know what exactly it looks like. There's something very visceral about being in a space with an actual thing that you can see, or you can touch. As an actor, it makes you perform differently, and as a director, there's nothing like having to not say, okay, it's above you, it's this, it's going to look like that.
a little bit left, a little bit left, a little
right.
bit
So
more.
Ian McKellen had talked about that with all 6, basically Hobbit / Lord of the Rings movies, where he had a very, very difficult time with the Hobbit films because of the fact that it was so much CGI and so much green screen work that he was never there with them.
Right, because you don't know if you're gonna put too little into your performance, too much into your performance in terms of how you're reacting to something. The human element is that's still the number one aspect of music or art.
Every time I see they run Harry Potter's 24 hours a day. You could anytime that you're awake, you can find a Harry Potter.
If it's not Harry Potter, it's Law and Order that's on all the time.
Right. Well, it's those two just run congruently like all day. I don't like. People do not give those kids enough credit. When you look at the behind the scenes footage of that movie, there's no set. It's all green screen and like 3 sets for most of what those kids were doing. And to get them even all looking in the right place at the right time is like, I teach 10-year-olds just trying to get them to start and stop playing their instrument at the same time, not even playing the right thing, just starting and stopping at the right time is like, it's really difficult. Obviously they were professional. They were basically small adults by the time, they had worked, they had worked their butts off to be professionals, but like that
$240,000 that first movie.
Right. There's nothing there. It's all CGI. And as they got deeper into it, it was even more CGI. So something like that is like, wow, they didn't have like puppets on a stick. They were just looking into the abyss and it was edited real well and the direction had to be great. So they got what they needed to put something together that didn't look, wasn't like half-assed. It was really good, visually really nice. So that's one that always comes to mind. It's like, oh, they weren't even another blue screen day.
And amazingly, 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. It's amazing.
The first Harry Potter movie and the first Lord of the Rings movie, the 20-year anniversary is this year. And I remember seeing that movie in theaters way down in Southern Virginia. And it's like,
I had a student tell me, "Oh, Harry Potter, that movie's only been out for like 5 years."
It feels like it's only been out for 5 years.
Right? I was like, 20 years ago, Harry Potter came out 5 years ago, but the first one was like, you weren't born yet. Yeah. It's like they don't realize it's, Daniel Radcliffe was your age when he started making these movies.
Yes. Is that pre 9/11 or after 9/11?
Just after.
Just after? Okay.
They filmed it in like 99, 2000-ish.
Yeah, because I saw it around Christmas, visiting my grandmother down in Southern Virginia.
It did come out.
It was one of those it was one of those 7:00 towns where everything shut down, and we're like, all right, what are we doing now? So me and my parents watched the first Harry Potter movie in like the one place that was open, which is the movie theater in Farmville, Virginia. But that was 20 years ago this year, which is amazing.
Flies by real fast.
Surprisingly, they haven't made a bigger deal out of that. For the 20-year anniversary of that or Lord of the Rings. You'd think that would have been a big.
Is that Sony still? Or no?
I thought it would have been snatched up by well, it's not Disney.
It's not Disney.
Yeah.
They have it at Universal Studios, so
it probably is Universal. Yeah.
Universal
which is
does
like NBC. So
Universal does have the Harry Potter world down in Florida. I've been to the one in London, and they do throw shade at the one in Florida.
Of course, isn't that just that's very British?
Yeah, it's like you see the train here. This is actually the train they used in the movie, not the one they say that they used in Florida. No, this is actually the real one over here. Which, by the way, if you ever get the chance to see Harry Potter World and see all this stuff firsthand, it's immaculate is the word I would use to describe some of the stuff. A lot of it was CGI, but what wasn't is gorgeous.
You went to England, right? Is that where you went to go see with you and Robin? Yeah.
Yeah. Almost 3 years ago. Amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. 3 years ago.
I know.
It's like yesterday.
We almost went back last year, but hey, COVID.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be this summer.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it. But
hopefully it'll kind of dissipate.
I got my first vaccine appointment is set for Saturday.
Oh, I was like, you got the shot?
No, but I got the appointment down in Edison, 12:30 in the afternoon.
Bring a lawn chair. According to my mom, you need a lawn chair because she had her appointment there. 3 hours. 3 hours in the line for the appointment that you had. Bring your favorite set chair.
Okay.
And just keep creeping along.
Find out what the weather's going to be like. See if it's going to be warm or cold or possibly raining.
That's right. Bring a snack. Maybe a meal.
Keep the phone charged.
Crafty
Robin's coming with me, so she can at least keep me company on this. But,
cool. Nice.
So, all right. So we got about 20 minutes left at this point. Like I said, find us always on Facebook at Tales from the Film Set or Twitter on Film Set Tales. The reason I'm doing it that way is because Twitter only allows 15 characters. Facebook does not, so I had to be inventive. All right. So I'm trying something new here. I did it with the Sports Den earlier today, but I'm trying something where I'm calling, in this case, 5 questions with Vincent. Now, these are trivia questions that tie in to you in some facet, some form, the industry, whatever it might be. I made these up. I'm going to see how they play out. If you don't have the answer for it, that's fine. Jasmine, if you want to take a crack at it, I am more than fine with that too. But let's give the man the first shot here. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So this is going to be a real easy one here. You, like us, are from New Jersey. Starting easy. What is the nickname of New Jersey?
Oh, you mean like the Garden State?
There you go.
Or
now,
some people call it some people call it the toxic waste state or the armpit of New York.
Mine is basically we're better than you think we are, honest.
Or the how you doing state. Yeah.
How you doing? Yeah, you doing all right? Yeah, doing all right. By the way, and just this doesn't count, but can you also name the state motto?
That I can't, off the top of my head.
Like the real state motto? Or
New Jersey state motto. I looked it up earlier when I was coming up with these.
Yeah, like that escapes me. I don't know.
Liberty and prosperity. I didn't know it either.
Oh.
No, no.
Yeah. All right. Now, number 2. Now, like I said this earlier, basically you did do an episode of the CBS series Elementary playing the character Gilbert Pham. Now, outside of Johnny Lee Miller, the role of Sherlock Holmes has been played on screen by over 275 actors, not counting stage. Name 3.
Ooh, Robert Downey Jr.,
One.
Benedict Cumberbatch, and I would say I think Cushing did it once. Robert Cushing, Peter Cushing rather.
Yes, Cushing. He did. That's 3. Can you name any more, just out of curiosity?
Does young Sherlock Holmes count? The one in 85?
I'm not counting young Sherlock Holmes. I'm actually talking. I mean, if you mean the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
If you can name it, sure, I'll count it.
I don't remember the guy's name, but he looked like Julian Lennon. But
he's that guy from that thing.
Yeah, it's that guy from that thing.
Yeah. Nicholas Rowe might be the guy you're thinking of.
Okay.
I have the list in front of me here.
Nice.
But some of the other ones. Actually, Johnny Depp, believe it or not, played him too. But
was Will Ferrell. A TV production? What was that?
Will Ferrell. Oh, Johnny Depp. Yeah, it was called Sherlock Gnomes. It was the computer animated one from a bunch of years ago. Some of the other ones include, believe it or not, Sir Ian McKellen did.
That's what.
There you go.
Yeah.
Spanglish.
In on it.
Ian McKellen.
Christopher Plummer. You mentioned Robert Downey Jr. Basil Rathbone is probably the most famous one for 14 movies.
14 movies,
and also the animated Great Mousekeeper 40 years after his last role. Will Ferrell, got to count him in this case. Henry Cavill, if you want to, because Henry Cavill played him in Enola Holmes. So, but yes, 275 plus. Yeah. So, all right. Number 3. Its Latin name is Swift Caesar. These dinosaurs gained popularity in the Jurassic Park franchise, once running alongside Chris Pratt on a motorcycle. What dinosaur is it?
Ooh, Velociraptor.
That was what I was going to say.
Velociraptor. Yeah, see it is.
There you
see
go.
What I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
So I had to do that one too. Yeah, and yes, producer Harrison was like, Sir, Ian McKellen. It's Sir Ian McKellen, by the way. Thank you. That's what he said in the TV show Extras.
I do have a story about. I'm sorry. I do have a story about Velociraptors, though.
Far away.
I actually did the national anthem for the Toronto Raptors one year.
Did you?
Yeah, because
nice.
The story behind it is, if you know the logo for the Raptors, the original one with the Raptor with the basketball, the band leader my band leader from King Chango, Andrew Blanco, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, but he actually designed that logo. So he did that for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Carolina Panthers. Like you'll see,
Everybody
like that
has a side hustle.
I was gonna say, it's also very cat mascot or cat logo.
Yeah, but he was very, very good at designing these. Like you'll see them like, oh yeah, that's the same style. But he did the Toronto Raptors, so I don't know how the manager had booked us there, but we did a Toronto Raptors basketball game, and one of the other band members did the American anthem, and then we had to do the Canadian anthem, and he's from Venezuela, so you'll appreciate this, Jasmine, as a saxophone player. But he starts off, we start off, oh, Canada, but then he starts modulating. So I'm like, okay, I'm playing the melody with him. Do I go with him or do I not go with him?
Well, how modern do you want it to be is the question.
Yeah.
You guys didn't cover this ahead of time?
This is back, no, we practiced it this is like 20 years ago.
It goes the way you practice it.
But the long story short, what happens is he goes off and he keeps going off and everyone starts booing. There's a tape of this somewhere, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm from Venezuela. Like, let's do this again. Let's start over." And Andrew was one of those guys who could go off into a stage, and he would say 2 words, and everyone would go crazy in the just excitement. We did the Montreal Jazz Festival one year with the headliners, and it's like 300,000 people or whatever. And I would see this every time we would be out on stage, whether it was in Colombia, whether it was in Venezuela, in Mexico, whatever. But you'd see the way I could describe looking at the crowds, and this is what I miss about the pre-COVID. Well, one of the things I miss about pre-COVID is the concerts and stuff. You'd look at the crowd and you'd see, the best way I could describe it is you're seeing popcorn, all these things popping up and that. So, coming back to the story of that performance, by the end of the thing, everyone's cheering and laughing and having a great time. And that's, you want to talk about mess ups, going back to your original story, or question about, have you ever seen anything happen that was a mess up that actually turned out to be very, very memorable and good? That's definitely a story that I'll always remember. But coming back to Velociraptors was Chris.
Well, see, it's funny because this show was actually broadcast out of Toronto.
Oh,
so they're very Raptor proud up there.
Raptors.
Probably someone's got it. If you give me the date on that, I could probably dig up that video somewhere.
It's got to be February. I know, I have a picture of it somewhere, maybe February 3rd or 2nd of 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find it.
So on the same line of modulating, did anyone see the national anthem that person sang at the...
somebody made a transcription of it.
Did you see the one that someone tried to play along on the piano and they, every 3 words they change keys, but and it was just and they're like, yeah, you got the job. It was like an audition, a piano audition, play along with this person, and every 2 words is in a different key. But I don't even know how to, there were no words when I watched that video. I was like, I hope you didn't pay them that much. That's all I have to say.
Well, speaking of someone who can't sing for squat, perform for squat, I am decent with a wood block. I'll give you that. You guys are worlds ahead of me. You guys are worlds beyond me. So I give you props for being able to do it. It's an instrument is something I have, or keyboard specifically, is something I have started to learn a couple dozen times in my life. I've gotten real good at that first level there, and then just give up, get sidetracked, and never finish it. So huge props for the dedication and sticking to it. I'm proud of you for that. So,
it's always good to you try new things, and I know you're very established and very accomplished in what you do as well as
thank you
in acting, and also this is got to be I know that we did a prior interview before.
Yes. With, on Ming Chen and Mike Zapsik stuff.
Yes, so you're
I'm working on them.
You have a great interview style, and
thank you. Well, you know what it is. I have the face to guide other people. I don't have the face to lead. This is like I said. This is the look that of the person who gets beaten up by the hero. This is the look of the person who's that sidekick. So
it always reminded me of Vincent D'Onofrio.
I get Vincent D'Onofrio from Full Metal Jacket.
What's the other one? Criminal Intent.
Well, Criminal Intent, yeah. Also, I've never heard it, but I probably would get also from Men in Black. Thankfully, not Daredevil. I'm not that big, but Men in Black, yeah. I've been told that I'm a combination of the guy from Adam Ruins Everything and Deadpool. And by the way, in this case, this is like Ryan Reynolds post the surgery.
I just saw Deadpool too. Like, talk about
I've literally been told on my Instagram that I'm a combination of the guy from Adam from Adam Ruins Everything and Deadpool. So that was a great one. I have been told I'm kind of ugly. I've gotten that one too. I get Conan O'Brien. I've gotten that one a few times.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ginger side of us.
But you know what? One another actor that we would both know. He always goes, you know who you like. Anytime somebody goes up to him and says, "Oh, you know who you remind me of? You remind me of you." And
nice.
I'll quote what's his name from Swingers, man. You don't know how money you are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how money you are.
I get Jon Favreau on occasion too. Speaking of Swingers, so. But yeah, I'm like him, just a lot less successful. But anyway, so yeah, we got about 9 minutes left at this point. I got 2 questions left. They're unfortunately
we didn't finish the questions. We got to finish the questions.
I got 2 left. One of them is actually way too easy in hindsight, so I may throw an extra one in to make it a little bit harder. Sure. But you're Filipino in nationality. This popular Filipino dish contains noodles, some combination of shrimp, pork, egg, and fish. Sometimes it's called birthday noodles because it's served on a birthday. What is it?
Pancit.
Yes, I know. That was way too easy in hindsight there. I love pancit. I haven't had it in a while. So, Robin, if you're listening, you did promise you were going to cook that for me. So, anytime.
Good stuff, man.
All right. So, one more for real and then one harder one I think I'm going to throw in at the end just for fun. In Assault on VA-33, alongside Michael J. White and Sean Patrick Flanery, you played Daryl. This Daryl was once a mermaid, a one-eyed assassin, and even a 50-foot woman. Who is it?
Oh, okay. It's got to be. She was also in Roxanne, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah, yes.
Daryl Hannah.
All right, cool. And let me throw one more in just for good measure. This particular Vincent, his final role was Edward Scissorhands, and he also narrated Thriller.
Oh man, I wish he was still around, man. He was
lovely.
Such a great actor.
Yes.
I just rewatched Mask of the Red Death.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great movie of his, and so many great Vincent Price movies.
Vincent Price, yes.
Yeah.
So,
of course,
like I said,
of course, he was in Batman as Egghead. So
he was, yes, in the original Adam West Batman.
That might have been his best, quite honestly. Like, if I want to be remembered for one thing, it's Egghead.
It's being Batman, and it is slightly overweight. Batman, very campy.
It must have been such a great show to work on, though, man. It just,
I've heard that. I've heard it's like I said, it's bizarre that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a blooper reel for that show?
There's a few.
I'm pretty sure there. Yeah.
Burt Ward, I know, had a bit of a hard time with it because, and listen, I respect that. You're 20, 21 years old, and you're wearing like elf tights. Those shorts that are coming like right up.
Well, there was that movie, Return to the Batcave. That actually it came out like maybe 15 years ago, something like that. But they made like a movie around the actual making of it. So like the Batmobile had been stolen, like this is like in the present time, but then they go back and they revisit what actually happened on the sets and stuff with different actors who really kind of do look like Adam West and Burt Ward at that time, and then all the other actors that were portraying like Cesar Romero and them, they were like spot on with casting. And some of the stories that they had shown was like, wow, that actually happened. It was really, really interesting to because I know we both worked on Gotham.
Oh yeah.
And
I know that more or less got to know you, I think
so. That may have been the first time I ever met Scott.
Yeah, because you were one of Penguin's henchmen, I remember.
Yeah, and I remember I've gotten killed so many times on screen before.
You and me both.
But, I remember being on set. I was covered with blood. I'm face down. It was like a big police shooting or whatever. And somebody they call action, and like somebody's like touching my back. I'm like, what's going on here? Like they keep coming back, and I'm like, all right, who's this? I look up. And it's Morena Baccarin.
Okay.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you need me to do this? I'm like, hey, do your thing.
Yeah,
do your thing. I'm just a dead corpse on Gotham.
Yeah.
So
she was also pregnant at the time too.
Yeah.
And there was that whole little incident there. It was with Ben McKenzie.
Right. I think but nowadays I think she's there's just talk of doing another Firefly. Is that correct? I think they're restarting that or doing a reboot.
Here's my take on Firefly. Firefly is awesome. Serenity never happened. I refuse to acknowledge that movie as canon
Hmm.
because you killed off my two favorite characters. You killed off
Yeah.
Bloch, you killed off Book. I refuse to acknowledge that movie exists.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's tough.
I have a T-shirt upstairs that says basically I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch me, watch how I soar.
But you do have River,
True.
like slicing and dicing through all those Reavers. So that's.
I'm pretty sure they would be down for it. You know, I mean, I know Nathan Fillion would be down for it. Alan Tudyk would be down for it.
I'd read it somewhere. They were doing talks of it. I forget, maybe it was Paramount Plus or something like that, or something.
Oh, really? Oh, so it's a
it was actually like they're actually going to revisit it, but don't quote me on it. But I'd read that somewhere.
Also, how much is Paramount Plus going to cost me? Because I already start adding up all of the streaming services, and it equals the same amount as my cable.
I think, well, it's the new renovated CBS All Access. And I think it's like $8 a month or something.
Yeah, like they can't be all more than $5 or $4 a month, because by the time I get all 20 of them, I might as well just pay for cable.
I mean, there's just so many great shows across all these platforms.
That's how they're operating.
Yeah, I watched Queen's Gambit on Netflix the other day. I watched, What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu, and then
I started that.
It was a lot of fun.
I love Matt Berry in anything he does.
Yeah, and then WandaVision, obviously, like that's my kick. I mean, after the
final episode.
So they say there might be a mystery 10th episode. I heard, but
really,
well, that's the rumor mill.
I'm assuming that just like every other Marvel aspect, there's going to be some kind of a crossover.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to show up. I'll be honest. I'm going to throw this out there. Why not? Spoiler time at this point, I guess. My guess is it's going to be an old Captain America.
That might be it. I mean, I think
if anybody could understand,
Evan Peters is. They still haven't clarified if that's actually Quicksilver from the X-Men universe brought over, if it's just somebody else that.
Oh, you mean
animated?
Okay, you're talking the Malcolm in the Middle one.
Yeah. I mean, well, I probably should have said spoiler alert and stuff for people that hadn't seen it, but
Well, I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible if I can, but still very curious to hear what you have to say.
The whole House of M thing is definitely playing out, and then the way I see it is there's going to be like a cascade of different people, from Nightmare to Mephisto to.
Professor, okay, they haven't brought him and Blackheart into it yet.
Yeah, and eventually I think they're going to do the Reed Richards thing with Fantastic Four, bringing in that whole aspect of it, and then who knows, maybe even Galactus and all the rest of that stuff coming in.
Where do you go from Thanos? Now it's funny. Harrison's like he's betting on Doctor Strange showing.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm looking for Doctor Doom eventually. That's got to be somebody. He's got to come in.
Listen, Howard the Duck is already part of it, so we got that part done.
Yep.
So Matter Eater Lad has not shown up. We got to get Matter Eater Lad into this. Matter Eater Lad was a character who had the ability to eat anything. We need to work him in somehow. So
can't wait for the casting call on that one.
Oh boy, yeah, right. Please don't relevant experience eating like styrofoam.
No, what are you kidding? It's every background that's ever gone to Crafty with a bag and scraped it into the bag.
I laugh and I cry simultaneously. Yes.
Yeah, it's not difficult to find, really.
It'd be like the Coney Island hot dog
eating people.
Oh yeah,
or that scene,
Joey Chestnut and Matt Stoney.
Yeah, or that scene from Stand By Me with the pie eating contest.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to wrap this up because I got 2 minutes left. I'm seeing the alerts over here. So, Vincent, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a great conversation. It's always great to see you, Scott, and good to talk with you.
How can people get in touch with you? How can people find you?
Well, you can find me on vincentveloso.com. I'm on Instagram, vincent.veloso, Facebook, Vincent M. Veloso, or Vincent Veloso. You'll find me there. IMDb, you can reach me out here. That's probably the easiest way to do it. vinceveloso@gmail.com is the catch-all thing. You can find Malumbo at Rope-A-Dope Records, malumbo.bandcamp or malumbo.com. And then for the movies that I'm in, you can check my IMDb page. I know that I shot on H.E.R, which is I play another cop. That should be coming out hopefully soon. A Case of Blue just premiered at the Ridgewood Guild International Film Festival this weekend, and it's been doing pretty well. I play a character actually named Vincent, ironically. And that was another great festival that I was able to be a part of and judge a couple of really great films and a lot of really talented filmmakers out there.
Yes.
But yeah, so those are the best ways to reach me, vincentveloso.com. And, for Malumbo, it's malumbo.bandcamp.com.
Fantastic. Cool. So like I said, Vincent, appreciate you being on. Jasmine, any last thoughts?
No, I mean, we always seem to just run out of time right when we get going. So there's
I know.
always,
Yeah, we got.
there's always next week.
Well, next week, I'm starting to work on a Clerks reunion. So I've already got one of the cast members from Clerks coming.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah,
that'd
be.
But I'm going to start bringing it because in this particular case, he's going to be talking specifically about his role in Clerks 3 and what he feels. He's already told me what he thinks Clerks 3 is going to entail, and what he said makes a ton of sense. So I'm working on maybe bringing a couple others in as well. So, but yeah, that's the agenda for next week. But yeah, I'd love to have you back. I'll figure this out.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Anytime you guys are free and want me back, I'm honored to be on the show.
Much appreciated. So that's it for us. Like I said, this can be found on 35 different platforms. Find us on Zingo TV, channel 251, Spanglish World Networks. Like I said, 4 different continents right now. Sadly, Antarctica is not one of them, but it is one of the goals to have the Antarctica maybe by the end of the year. As Bruno, for my fantastic super host, Jasmine Bloch-Krempels, I'm Scott Churchson, and this has been Tales from the Film Set, where actors, producers, writers, animators, actors, everybody involved tells all our stories, good, bad, and ugly, about all your favorite movies and favorite celebrities. I'm Scott Churchson. Have a great night. Stay safe. Stay